Hey guys, Bill Comic Book University, and the greatest comic book currently out right now, my opinion, is Punisher, the Platoon, issue number 3 of 6. I love this comic book, and I hate it at the same time because it just brings back a lot of memories, not great memories. No, I was not in Vietnam for anybody just jumping on this. So we have the Punisher figuring out a way. Listen, when the M16 came in, there was the M16A1 first came into play. That was in Vietnam, and the soldiers didn't train on the M16. All right, the soldiers who were there first, they trained on the M14, and they were not used to these little lightweight plastic things that had pretty good accuracy, but for all intents and purposes, the thing broke if you farted the wrong way. You'd have to constantly clean it all the time. I remember when I was in the military. I'm not exaggerating when I say we definitely did learn how to disassemble it, clean it, and reassemble it with a blindfold on. So yeah, and timed. We would actually time it. So yeah, dude, like it's crazy how much maintenance goes into the use of this weapon, but it is what it is. So these guys just had these weapons dumped on them, and they really showed this in this issue of the Punisher Platoon. I knew it was going to happen at some point or another. This comic wouldn't be complete if they didn't do that. So they jumped into it pretty early, and they had problems with it. They almost died in many cases that they showed. Yeah, so the Punisher goes and does something unexpected. He goes back to get the M14s back, and the plan to get it is pretty flawless, and he even gets to throw a little bit of intimidation there. He says, hey, I heard that there's heroin being slung about. It's like, oh, gee, I don't know anything about that, LT, meaning lieutenant. And it's like, it comes nowhere near my platoon. And the guy got it really quick. The sniveling little desk rat, the desk jockey, who, doesn't have to be anywhere near combat. And, you can't blame somebody for not wanting to be around combat. I don't begrudge anyone for not wanting to be around combat, especially not for an unpopular war like Vietnam. But this little sniveling butthead, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's just sleazy. He's that used car salesman, but the Punisher knows exactly what is up. He knows exactly how to use this guy, and it's perfect. And man, bet you more people wish they had somebody like Frank Castle in charge of their platoon when they were out there. Yeah, so I loved this comic book. Guys, straight out, I'm giving this comic an A. Just, yeah, you can't, I'm sorry. I'm not going to argue with how good this comic book was. It's amazing. I can't wait for the next 3 issues, and the worst part about it is that eventually this is going to end. Anyway, just a couple points. I always do this at the end of my reviews. A couple of points maybe you guys don't know. The 5.56 is at one point they're like, oh yeah, you got to get the 5.56s also or something like that. 5.56 is the round, the bullet that is used for the M16. On top of that, the M16 did break all the time. They did originally use the M14, but that was the official reason they gave us is, oh, it's mostly made out of wood and metal and it's too heavy. Yeah, but it worked. You could drop that thing in mud, pick it back up, and it would work again. Much like the AK-47, which is the enemy or the weapon of our enemy, and it made a distinct sound when fired at us. And it's true, it does. The idea here is that basically when push comes to shove, I know they're going to, a lot of people want to argue that it was a NATO thing, pulling in the M16. They could have done that with the M14. Absolutely could have done that. But there's a war profiteering aspect to this. And there is simply no denying that's exactly what happened. Colt made the C-O-L-T, made a whole lot of money off of a bunch of soldiers dying because they said, you know what, you guys need a different weapon. You guys need to use a different kind of rifle out there, a different kind of assault rifle. Yeah, the M14 is just not good enough. You need to use something distinctive. So you have a weapon that doesn't fire as strong as a round. It's not going to go through a whole lot of anything. People can hide through fairly light things. It's not going to take down tanks. It's not going to take down anything. It's going to take down a human being. That's it. And if you're hiding behind a tree, you're safe. And it was much lighter. It was made out of mostly plastic. The hand grip, you're going to love this one, was made by Mattel. Yes, the toy company, the toy manufacturing company is a war profiteer. Imagine that. So, yeah, that's That's the story behind the M16. There's actually a lot more. There's a lot of really great history behind it. And yes, the AK-47 is a vastly superior weapon. I honestly don't know anybody who's ever been in the service who suggests that the M16 was ever, in any way, shape, or form, a better weapon. Like I said, it fired a little bit straighter. Didn't matter when it kept on jamming. If you dropped your rifle, you had to do a lot of push-ups to teach you not to let your rifle drop, because if it fell, it would probably jam. You would have to actually disassemble and reassemble your weapon. It was that bad. There's a reason why the AK-47 was actually considered one of the greatest inventions in all of history, because it was a very simple weapon and anybody could make it. There's a reason why it's all over the world, not just because of the collapse of the Soviet Union, but more specifically, it's a very easy weapon to make and to replicate. There are lots of copies of it out there, but on top of that, it pretty much never broke. You could fire it underwater. You can't do that with an M16. So, anyway, aside from that, I don't know. Oh, the deuce and a half. I may have mentioned this in an earlier review for the comics. Deuce and a half is just simply a truck. It's a 2.5-ton truck, and that has nothing to do with the. It has a lot to do with the engine size, but specifically, it's not the weight of the truck itself. Rather, it's its carrying capacity. It's able to carry 2.5 tons. Under optimal conditions, it could carry a lot more, but it would always be able to carry at least 2.5 tons. We're talking about like off-road conditions, with you don't have an actual road to drive on. So very reliable in that regard. And then there was the 5-ton truck. Those were the two main get-arounds back then. Anyway, guys, that's really all I got. Hope you enjoy the comic. Hope you enjoy the review, guys. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.